IVM.
Hello, one. Hello, all. Welcome to the Diary of the Traveling Professor. And I'm Siddharth Deshmukh, your friendly neighborhood traveling professor, now well ensconced in Pune after coming back from Mumbai, where I was part of an interview panel. And it's so interesting to be part of that interview panel. I spoke all about it on Tuesday when I was talking about where have all the TikTokers gone. But today's diary entry is a little different. It's a little different, but it's also inspired by a few people I've met on the interview panel. Now, Micah's interview panels are a little different because we try to get people from all walks of life to interview Micah aspirants, and some of them are also running their own SMEs. So it's not only people from corporates or only faculty who are looking at these aspirants. We are also looking at people who are from all walks of life in order to get a balanced perspective of each candidate who comes in. So I happened to be across one such gentleman who was working. He had his own SME, and it immediately reminded me of my days when I started some companies earlier, and I was an SME myself, or I was doing it for close friends of mine. And the funny thing is, I just, kind of juxtaposed it with a question that was asked to me by another friend of mine who was like, why do all SMEs hate branding so much? Yeah? Why are they so against branding? Why can't they realize that branding is going to help them? And, I kind of thought about it, and this is what I feel. Right? It's a pretty interesting sort of dynamic, because when you're an SME player, there's few things that are happening immediately. You get boxed into one corner wherein you are not a big guy. So you are a struggler, you are somebody who is going to struggle it. So suppose, for example, you are part of a software services group and you are a software company yourself. Then you will struggle to get on the short list for each vendor, right? So there's a vendor shortlist which is there for big companies, and maybe an SME will get in over there because they've kind of ticked all the boxes and wined and dined all the right people. But an SME typically will not have the budget for that, will not have the wherewithal for that. An SME is fighting different battles, right? So typically employees are leaving because they're getting better jobs, or clients are not paying up on time, so you're always struggling to maintain cash flow. You're also trying to drum up new business. The kind of business that you're getting is not a corporate steady flow, but you're kind of putting your hat out towards different kinds of clients. You're also struggling to keep your own motivation and passion when these struggles go and hit you. And over a period of time, you are defined by your struggles. So when you're defined by your struggles, what tends to happen is that you become a certain kind. And it's got nothing to do with me looking down upon SMEs. I was, a central figure of an SME myself, and I do know that we tend to box ourselves and become lesser and lesser versions of ourselves. But that's also true for people working in corporates and any other place, right? Once we start getting templatized, we start looking at the limitations and boundaries rather than the opportunities that might exist. And it's very easy to say that for somebody who's not in the SME sector right now. I fully get that. But one of the things that does happen is that an SME person will now look at branding very differently. He will look at, or she will look at branding from a cost perspective, from a frivolousness or frivolity, is that the word? Yeah, frivolity perspective. You will think that, branding and all, yeah, this is not for me. Yeah. This is for somebody who has the wherewithal to think about the long term. Here I am thinking about the short term, and I'm trying to make sure that, with the COVID and whatever it may be, I'm trying to keep myself and my team alive. And so therefore branding takes a hit. What's the most ironic thing about this sort of branding thing? You have branding agencies themselves who are SMEs who don't do enough branding for themselves. Now tell me, is there a bigger irony than that? It's so weird. So the fact is that if I look at what should an SME do to overcome the aversion to branding, right? I also think that the core aspect of it is there has been a time wherein they have kind of committed themselves to the branding aspect, but some agency somewhere has taken them for a ride or not really given them value for money, or something has happened wherein the expectations mismatch has happened, and so many different things, right? But I do feel that when you're running your own business, your expectations of other people running their own businesses just completely changes. You're looking at people suspiciously, and also you're looking for people to put in that extra value that you put in towards your clients, don't you? So, yeah, sure. So they've had a couple of bad experiences with agencies, maybe, who are doing their branding work, and it hasn't had an impact, right? It hasn't had an impact because maybe it's done halfway house, or maybe they've tried to compromise on the costs angle, or something's gone wrong. And this kind of explains the SME aversion to branding. Okay, whether you're in a B2B game or a B2C game, right? Maybe the guys who are in B2C just have to think of branding as a necessary evil. And maybe the guys who are in B2B just think of it as an unnecessary frivolity. But this is the spectrum. So, how, if I was to advise an SME, connected to the fact that right now, I'm not in an SME, but I was very much part of an SME, what would I do? What would I advise them? And I would say go back to first principles to any SME. If I look at the SME which has not become an SME or remained an SME after 10 years or after 5 years of existence, I think that should serve as a lodestar. That should serve as a point of aspiration for a lot of SMEs. I mean, if you're going to define yourself continuously as an SME, then clearly you're not going to grow to scale. You're not going to find that product market fit, which is going to actually make you grow. And I don't think that a lot of the SMEs that I talk to want to remain SMEs after a reasonable period of time. They want to grow. So how about looking at the SMEs that have actually grown, and then you'll suddenly realize, oh God, they are such sexy brands. And they've done some really, really good branding. I mean, if you think of the B2C space, and if you think of Google and Facebook, I guess all of them were small at some stage. I'm not going to technically define them as SMEs ever, but all companies are small at some stage. But that doesn't mean that they didn't do branding, but they did not perhaps do branding in the conventional sense as is fed to us through typical agencies. In fact, Google and Facebook started advertising very late in the game. Amazon did some very frugal advertising. But if you look at any sort of brand, whether it is a Nike or whether it is Starbucks or whether it is Salesforce, if you want to take a B2B example, or whether it is, they have invested in a different kind of branding, and they have done a very different sort of setup, which has made them stand out and create the right kind of perceptions that have created that pull. Because branding eventually is about creating pull, and there can be ingenious ways for an SME to create pull. Yes, it does take time, and yes, it is not immediately understandable or it's not immediately attributable, but you will know that you're creating a brand that is going to make you stand out rather than, kind of blend in. And I would say that it would be worth your while, dear SME, to actually invest in a different kind of branding if you don't want to stay an SME for a very long time. Well, these are my thoughts. I do know that SMEs have a very tough time, okay, but they do need to consider different kinds of solutions. And with digital and with different first principle thinking, I think that they can probably achieve a lot more than what they think they can perhaps do. So I'd like to leave them with this thought and leave you with this thought. Challenge the boundaries, I suppose. And well, I hope you like this diary entry of mine, and many more to come from where this came from. Do look at my Instagram and my LinkedIn, where I'm quite regular in posting stuff, which I consider to be of a little value to people who might want to be connected to deeper thoughts around certain topics. And I talk on a wide variety of topics in my video series as well, The Traveling Professor Investigates. And if you like podcasts like these, my friends, just go to IVM, just search for IVM in any sort of place wherein you normally download your podcasts from, and you'll be pleasantly surprised. And on that happy note, I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'd like to thank our sponsors on the network this week, Siet Tires and the Whole Truth Foods. We really appreciate the support. So this week, tune into This Round is on Me with Gauri Devidayal. She invited Sonal Holland, India's only master of wine, and they discussed the goodness and business of wine, the pros and cons of being women in the hospitality business, and motherhood. On The Traveling Professor, Siddharth Deshmukh looks at evolution of search and wonders how voice search might change things yet again. On Advertising is Dead, Varun Dugirala featured Anirudh Singla of Pepper Content. He shared his perspective on the term content and how he sees it going forward. On Storytellers and Storysellers, Vinny spoke to Ayushman Sinha, head of Represent, a music talent management agency. He spoke about life as a manager and about nurturing new talent and paving a progressive career path for them. On Cyrus Says, we had entrepreneur, businesswoman, and Ruckus Avenue radio host Alexandra Masur. They discussed ethnicity, life as Desi American, Seema Auntie's matchmaking show, and a lot of other fun stuff. Also, IVM has an hour every Sunday on the Ruckus Avenue Radio Network, a US-based radio station that caters to the South Asian community. It's available on Dash Radio, and you can catch the episodes on the IVM Likes feed every Monday. On The Habit Coach with Ashton Doctor, Ashton asks us to commit to sleep and prioritize it over every party, work deadline, or binge watch session, as it is a crucial time when the body slows down for maintenance and recovery. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Feeling overwhelmed, anxious, struggling with too many obstacles, don't know where your life is headed? Well, if you are dealing with one or all of these, tune into the Positively Unlimited podcast, because in each episode, I share a life lesson, a life hack, a pro tip that can help you get your life back on track. All episodes are available on the IBM website, IBM Podcast app, or wherever it is that you get your podcast from.